Good morning. This April 6, 2022 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. Earlier this week, the City Council had its first in-person council hearing in the council chambers for over 2 years. And yesterday, our mayor had the opportunity to deliver the state of the city, the first time the city has seen that in person in over 2 years. And today, we gather as your Board of Estimates to do the same thing. I think it's really important for us to understand and know this point of history and in time that we're standing and we're faced with coming out of the coronavirus, the COVID pandemic, understanding and knowing it's important for us all to unify and come together to continue to push our city out. Whether you're here in the chambers or you're viewing us online, I would like to say thank you. Mr. Mayor, I also believe that this is the first time in Baltimore City's history that the government has conducted business in a hybrid fashion, meaning for the citizens of Baltimore, you can not only come and watch face-to-face your government in action and participate in your government, but also for those who are at home, being able to participate and in their government virtually. And this is the first meeting of the city government, I believe, unless anybody can tell me otherwise, that is the case. That being, it's new for Baltimore City IT department. It's new for our Charm City TV crew. It's new for all of the staff associated with the inner workings with this hybrid environment. So as we continue to kind of move on, please be patient as it relates to any technological issues or challenges that we might face very early on. But again, for all the, what I would like to say, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller, before we could continue, if we could all give a round of applause and thank you for the hard work of the men and women that stepped up behind the scenes to make this happen in less than 2 weeks. Now, the last message for those who are live, please make sure you take out your cell phones and you silence them, put them on vibrate so we do not disrupt today's proceedings. We have a very, very long agenda, so please hold on and enjoy this ride. At this time, I would like to call Madam Clerk of Board of Estimates, Ms. Celeste Amato, for any corrections, additions, and noted abstentions for today's agenda.
Good morning, everyone. Bear with me. It's a long agenda, so there are lots of remarks this morning from the clerk. For changes and corrections, on page 407, we have a correction. This item was received timely, but due to an oversight in our office was added to the last upload of the agenda. That is Mayor's Office Amendment number 2 to non-construction consultant agreement. This item was deferred at the March 16th, 2022 meeting, and it inadvertently was not placed on the April 6, 2022 agenda was when we were processing. Apologies to the Mayor's Office for that. Item number 2, protests, page 36 through 347. Item number 4, Bureau of Procurement, contract number B50006097, asbestos abatement services. A protest was received from Compliance Construction and Remediation Incorporated. Deferrals and withdrawals. Page 173, item number 8, Bureau of Procurement, contract number 08000. CoStar Real Estate Software is being deferred to the April 20th, 2022 board agenda. That was at the request of the controller. Page 211, item number 35, Bureau of Procurement, emergency procurement. This item is being deferred until the April 20th, 2022 agenda at the request of Christopher Lundy, our chief for the EMBU office. Page 346, item number 4, procurement number B50006097, asbestos abatement services. This item is being deferred until April 20th, 2022 at the request of the city administrator. Page number 350, item number 11 and item number 12, Department of Public Works, WC 1252, Grantley Road and Vicinity Water Maintenance Replacement and Transfer of Funds. A protest and supplements to protest were received from Metra Industries A response to the protest was received from Monumental Paving and Excavating. This item is being deferred until April 20th, 2022 at the request of the city solicitor. Page number 351. Item number 13 and number 14, Department of Public Works, contract number WC 1410, urgent need water infrastructure rehabilitation and improvements, Phase 1, FY 21, and transfer of funds. A protest and supplements to protest were received from Metra Industries. A protest and supplement to protest were received from R.E. Harrington Plumbing and Heating Company. This item is being deferred until April 20th, 2022 at the request of the city solicitor. Page 352, items number 15 and number 16, Department of Public Works. Contract number WC 1285, Caroline Street and Vicinity water main replacements and transfer of funds. A protest and supplements to protest were received from Metra Industries. A response to the protest was received from Wright, Constable, and Skeen, LLP. On behalf of Civil Construction, LLC, this item is being deferred until April 20th, 2022 at the request of the city solicitor. Items moving to the non-routine agenda. Page number 4, item number 1, Department of Audits. The Baltimore City Office of Information and Technology Biennial Financial Audit for fiscal years ended June 30, 2020 and 2019. Page number 4, item number 2, Department of Audits, the Independent Auditors Report on applying agreed-upon procedures for the Baltimore City Cable Television Franchise Agreement, January 2017 through January 2021. Page number 39 through 40, Baltimore City Fire Department Consultant Agreement. Page 64 through 66, Department of Real Estate Land Disposition Agreement. Page 76, Department of Law Settlement Agreement and Release. Page 156, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement Professional Services Agreement. Page 317, Department of Housing and Community Development Home and CDBG Loan Modification for Highlandtown Plaza Apartments. And page 346, item number 4, Bureau of Procurement, contract number B50006097, asbestos abatement services. Again, this item received a protest and has also now been deferred. Moving to the routine agenda, page number 161, Department of Planning, fiscal year 23 through 28 capital budget and capital improvement program. Abstentions. The Honorable Mayor Brandon Scott abstains on the following pages and items. Page number 79, item number 7, Health Department Agreement, the Johns Hopkins University. Page number 80, item number 9, Health Department Agreement, the Johns Hopkins University Bloomberg School of Public Health. Page number 86, Health Department Agreement, the Johns Hopkins University School of Public Health. Page number 90, item number 2, Health Department Agreement, the Johns Hopkins University. Page number 315 through 316, Department of Housing and Community Development Grant Award. For the Honorable President Nick Mosby, page number 32, City Council Bills 21-0182, 21-0184, and 22-0201. Page number 168 through 170, item number 5, Bureau of Procurement, contract number B50006178, relocation services for SAO clients, State's Attorney's Office. Page number 323 through 324, Office of the State's Attorney, Grant Adjustment Notice. Page number 325, Office of the State's Attorney, Memorandum of Understanding. Page number 326, Office of the State's Attorney, Grant Award. Page number 328 through 329, Baltimore Police Department, Intergovernmental Agreement. The Honorable Bill Henry has no abstentions. City Solicitor James Shea has no abstentions. Deputy Solicitor Ebony Thompson has no abstentions. The Director of Public Works has no abstentions. And Deputy Director, who is not sitting in today, also had no abstentions. And I believe I'm concluded, thankfully.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the opening statement read by our clerk. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The opening statement is now adopted. At this time, I will ask the board to turn its attention to three items on the published non-routine agenda. These items are page 350, number 11, number 12, Department of Public Works, WC 1252 Grantley Road and Vicinity Water Main Replacement. On page 351 and 352, number 13 and 14, Department of Public Works, WC 1410 Urgent Need Water Infrastructure Rehabilitation and Improvements, Phase 1, fiscal year 2021. And on page 352, number 15 and number 16, Department of Public Works, WC 1285 Caroline Street and Vicinity Water Main Replacement. At this point, the board is very familiar with all three of these items. As you know, there's an ongoing litigation brought by one of the protesters, I believe two at this point, related to these awards, and the board has been ordered to delay out consideration on them. Since these items have been deferred several times already, our bylaws do require a vote to defer them again. Is there a motion to defer these three items to our next regularly scheduled meeting?
Motion to move, Mr. President.
Second. It's been moved and probably seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. And all those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The three items are now being deferred. Moving on, I'd now like to direct the board's attention to a memorandum from my office dated April the 5th, 2022, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with the corrections and additions and abstentions and noes that was noted by our amazing clerk. I will entertain a motion to approve all the items contained in the routine agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and probably seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. And all those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Now the routine agenda has been approved. On to our first order of business. At the request of, there's been a request that's been made, and we're going to take on the non-routine agenda slightly out of order this morning. We are of esteem, a pleasure to have the president of Morgan State University with us, David Wilson. I know that there's some scheduling issues and we want to bring your item up first, and that's what we're going to do. This first item on the non-routine agenda can be found on pages 64 and 60 through 66, Department of Real Estate. This request is to approve and authorize the execution of a land disposition agreement for the sale of three city-owned properties located at 4801 St. Lo Drive and 2803 St. Lo Drive, and which is roughly 14.1 acre parcel to the Morgan State University. On behalf of the Department of Real Estate, we have Andy Frank joining us via WebEx to speak to this contract. Mr. Frank, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller, and honorable members of the Board of Estimates. We are very excited to be here this morning to ask the Board of Estimates to approve the sale of the former Lake Clifton High School and two smaller parcels to Morgan State University. I'll briefly review the terms. The city is selling the roughly 59-acre site to Morgan for $93,000. Morgan will phase development over 15 years. The LDA defines phase 1 as the demolition of the school building and stabilization of historic Valve House, the completion of the master plan by the Planning Commission, approved by the Planning Commission within 3 years, and the construction of a convocation center within 10 years. With regard to the artwork, there are 8 works of art in the building, 7 of which were financed in 1971 as part of the city's 1% for art law. Morgan has reached an agreement with the Public Arts Commission to conserve and store 5 works of art. Basketball court. Morgan and the Department of Recreation and Parks has reached an agreement to relocate the basketball court on the site to park property on the west side of St. Lo Drive. Morgan will pay 75% of the cost, not to exceed $161,250. Cell tower. Morgan will grant the city an easement to access the cell tower on the site, which generates revenue to the city and also provides necessary emergency communications equipment. Football field. In a separate agreement with Baltimore City Public Schools, Morgan will allow the school district to utilize the existing football field through 2024. Morgan is one of Baltimore's greatest strengths. According to a January 21 economic benefits analysis, Morgan supports 4,200 jobs in Baltimore City that account for more than $188 million in wages and generates $11 million in city tax revenue. Growing anchor institutions like Morgan are important drivers of economic and neighborhood development in Baltimore City. We don't need to look far to see the positive impact that Morgan has had on the neighborhoods around its Northeast Baltimore campus. In Northeast Baltimore, Morgan has been an anchor institution and economic engine since its founding. But having years of unprecedented growth in the last 10 years, Morgan is running out of space. This transaction will allow Baltimore City to capture Morgan's continued growth and investment over the next 20 years. To give you a sense of magnitude, the Lake Clifton site is more than 1/3 the size of the Morgan's main Northeast Baltimore campus. Finally, I want to recognize and thank Joanne Levin from the Law Department and Sharon Kemper from the Real Estate Department for help making this day possible. That concludes my remarks, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Mr. Frank. At this time, are there any questions or concerns from members of the board for the Real Estate Department? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to call on the mayor if you'd like to give some remarks regarding this.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say how of a big deal this is. We know this city has had a history of not investing in partnering with our historic HBCUs and making sure that we support them in their growth. And this is a prime example that we have decided that we're no longer going to be that way. And when you think about, Mr. President, what's going on in your childhood neighborhood around Morgan State and what this is going to mean for the neighbors in Chum as they start to see redevelopment, it's really showing a new signal for our city and our neighborhoods and Morgan State University that we appreciate them. We know how significant and what they mean to our city and our neighborhoods, and we just look forward to seeing the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, are there any other comments, questions, or concerns from members of the board? Hearing and seeing. Ms. Comptroller?
Having some idea of the capabilities of university presidents, I'd like to yield my time to Dr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. Again, is there anything else from members of the board? Hearing and seeing none, as the Comptroller just stated, at this point, we're going to take public testimony. And I would like to call up the president of the illustrious university, Morgan State University, Dr. Wilson.
Good morning. Thank you very much, President Mosby, Mayor Scott, Comptroller Henry, and other members of the Board of Estimates. I realize you have a very long agenda, and so I'll keep my testimony as brief as possible. We are truly excited about this acquisition of real property at Morgan. Morgan, of course, was established in 1867 on the west side of Baltimore, and we moved to our current location in Northeast Baltimore in 1917. We acquired a small farm at that time, which was nowhere near the acreage that this acquisition will bring to the university. So the 59-acre acquisition is the largest acquisition of real property in the 155-year history of Morgan State University, and we are truly honored. Morgan is in an immense period of growth. We have the largest enrollment in the history of the institution. Just on yesterday, we decided that we're going to have to close our application portal because we simply have no place to put all the students from the city, from our state, and indeed from the region who really want to take advantage of the institution that is Morgan. In 2016, we got the state of Maryland to designate Morgan as the state's, quote, preeminent public urban research university. That was done in a very deliberate way because Morgan is the only public doctoral comprehensive research university in this city. And we are taking that quite seriously, Mayor Scott and President Mosby. Also, in 2016, the National Trust for Historic Preservation named Morgan State University as a national treasure within the United States of America. There are only 69 sites that are named national treasures, and Morgan State University is the only university campus that is a part of that. And so with the acquisition of this property, we are seeking to continue the growth of the institution. We have a goal to become a very high research university and join the ranks of Johns Hopkins, the University of Maryland College Park, and most recently, our sister institution, UMBC. The state legislature is poised to pass a law supporting our ascendancy to the very highest ranks. And you may ask, what does that mean for the city? What it means is that even now, for every $10 million in research grants that Morgan gets, it leads the state of Maryland and many national institutions in spinoffs, that is, small companies that are being formed from our research laboratories. And so in the future, we see this property as being there for, in some instances, as kind of an innovation park, where some of those companies could be spun off, could be incubated, and then grow and help this city to grow with the way in which Morgan is seeing its future as well. And so I want to keep my remarks as brief as possible, but I do want to thank two of my colleagues who are here with me, Mr. Sidney Evans, who is Executive Vice President, and also Ms. Kim McCalla, whom many of you may know, and she is our Associate Vice President for Design, Construction, and Facilities. Morgan is concluding a 10-year period of over $1 billion in investment in our facilities. We have just finished our next 10-year plan, and we see an additional $1 billion coming to the institution to enable us to develop now this corridor from Northern Avenue all the way to East Coast Spring Lane, and to make that, if you will, one of the most exciting places in our city to live, to recreate, to work, and to learn. And with that, we really appreciate your support of this conveyance, and we'll be more than happy to address any questions you have.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. At this point, are there any questions or concerns from a member of this board or Dr. Wilson? Hearing and seeing none, I would like to publicly state on the record, Dr. Wilson, thank you for your leadership and your willingness to work with the city. We had the opportunity in working with the Department of Real Estate. And one of the questions I had, because a lot of times we see these land disposition agreements take place, we don't think about the future necessarily. And when we look at such a huge swath of land in a very centralized part of our city, that could become amazing real estate one day, Mayor Scott, when we're no longer around. We wanted to understand and know the motivation of what we're doing today is significant, is concreted in what takes place in the future. And Morgan was more than agreeable to ensure that an anti-speculation disclosure was placed in it in perpetuity. Meaning that what Dr. Wilson is stating today, and Morgan holding on to this piece of property and rejuvenating this piece of property, living up to the ideals of the Morgan Mile that you put in place several years ago, we understand and know that not only our children, but our children's children will benefit from that, and the city will as well. So thank you for your leadership on that, and thank you for being a very committed partner to the city of Baltimore. Having no additional questions or concerns for the real estate department or for Dr. Wilson at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved and probably seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is now approved. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to also recognize District 3 Representative Councilman Dorsey, who is a huge supporter of the Morgan State University, which the main campus sits in his district, as well as District 14 Representative Odette Ramos, who's in the back of the room as well, who this new gem of expanding Morgan to the Lake Clifton campus will sit in her district. With that said, we will move on to the next item. The next item on the non-routine agenda can be found on page 4. Item number 1, the Baltimore City Office of Information and Technology biannual financial audit for fiscal years ending on June 30th, 2020 and 2019. At this time, I'll turn the floor over to our amazing auditor, Josh Pash, to introduce his team and walk us through the audit findings. Mr. Auditor, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller, and board members. My name is Josh Pash, and I'm the City Auditor. I am here to present the biennial financial audit of the Baltimore City Information Technology Agency. The order of my presentation is I will go over the audit objective, scope, and methodology. Then I will go over the opinion on the financial statements. I will explain the 3 levels of internal control deficiencies. I will go over the schedule of findings, and then we'll conclude with the implementation of the status of the prior findings. Next slide, please. The audit objective and methodology, we were here to express an opinion on the financial statements for fiscal years 2020 and 2019. This involved performing audit procedures to obtain evidence about the amounts and disclosures of the financial statements. During the audit, we are required to consider internal controls over financial reporting, and we did perform tests over those and had certain findings. However, the purpose of our audit was not to test internal controls over financial reporting and compliance, and therefore we are not providing an opinion on the internal control over financial reporting, but we will be noting certain findings that did come up during our audit procedures. Slide, please. The opinion, we believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is insufficient to allow us to state an opinion on the financial statements, and therefore we're disclaiming an opinion on the statements. That means that we are not giving an opinion as to the material accuracy of the statements. The reason for this is the basis of the statements are not generally accepted accounting principles, and they cover multiple bases: budget basis, cash basis, and modified accrual basis. And it is not a complete set of financial statements. It is only the revenues and expenditures. Since the biennial financial statements are requested by the Biennial Audit Oversight Commission to monitor expenses of the agencies on an annual basis, they are not required to comply with generally accepted accounting principles and used primarily for management. Therefore, we have disclaimed the opinion. Next slide, please. I want to go over briefly the 3 levels of internal control deficiency, which will help explain the findings and the significance of the findings that I'm about to present. Number 1 is a deficiency internal control. What that means that the control structure does not allow management or the employees in the normal course of performing their assigned functions to prevent, detect, and correct misstatements on a timely basis. That is the lowest level of reported finding. A material weakness is a deficiency or combination of deficiencies in internal control that there's a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the agency's financial statements will not be prevented, detected, or corrected on a timely basis, which means that if there is a misstatement, it is likely that it will not be detected. And a significant deficiency falls in the middle, which is a deficiency or combination of deficiencies in internal control that's less severe than a material weakness, but important to merit the attention by those charged by governance. Next slide, please. I will go into the findings. The first finding is ranked as a material weakness. The agency's general fund schedule of budgetary expenditures was not accurately presented. In fiscal year 2019, a supplemental appropriation of $10 million was approved to cover additional expenditures to cover the cost of ransomware attack. However, the general fund schedule of budgetary expenses did not reflect this. As the amount was $10 million, this was material, and the budgetary schedule is materially misstated. And so one of the effects is without accurate budgetary schedule, the city cannot determine on an ongoing basis or a real-time basis that the expenditures are falling within the budget. The cause was that the city did not record the AO in the budgetary accounting system. And the reason for this was that the credit where they pulled the money from was the fund balance. The fund balance is the part of the financial statements and the recording and the general ledger that is the amount residual of revenues left over from year to year. And the fund balance is not included in the budgetary accounting system, so it couldn't be posted there. Our recommendation to the Director of Finance is to establish policies and procedures to ensure that supplemental appropriations are recorded in the budgetary accounting system so that reporting on budget to actual is accurate and more helpful to management. Finding 2, this is also ranked as a material weakness. We noted that there was improper accounting treatments and lack of full allocation to respective agencies attributed to deficits in the agency internal service fund. So the BSIT is responsible for 2 internal service funds, the Municipal Communication Fund and the Hardware and Software Replacement Fund. An agency internal service fund was not properly recorded because there was inappropriate accounting treatments and incomplete allocation of expenditures. The basic idea is these 2 funds inside of BSIT are created to support the rest of the city of Baltimore. And the accounting treatment should be that their financial statements balance, where the money that comes in should equal the money that goes out, and the money that comes in should be provided by the agencies who are receiving those services. Because they were not all recorded, deficits and spending variances were in the financial statements for fiscal year 2020, when they should be equal and net out. So our recommendation, we gave a number of recommendations, primarily to the Director of Finance to establish formal policies and procedures that should provide guidance to finance and the agencies how the accounting for internal service funds should be accounted and recorded. And I did list some other recommendations in the report there, which I will not go into at this time. Finding 3. This was a control deficiency, which is the lowest level. The agency did not electronically sign off on all timesheets for testing or payroll. So we noted that BSIT managers did not sign off on employee timesheets in eTime, which is the ADP city's time tracking record. And that was the previous one. We've now moved into Workday. But we noted in our testing that 57 of 60 employees tested for fiscal year 2020 did not have that approval inside the accounting system of record, which was eTime. We did notice that the agency did note and bring up evidence that there was manual sign-offs. However, the accounting system of record was not up to date, and we considered that a control deficiency. Our recommendations there is that as we move into Workday, that the system includes and enforces that electronic timesheet submissions are approved by managers, and that the accounting record, the accounting system of record is correctly showing the time entry and the approval by the correct manager. Okay, finding 4, significant deficiency. This is also a lowest level deficiency. We noted that outstanding encumbrances impact the agency's budgetary system. And the encumbrances across the board are an issue for many agencies that we've noted in the past audits. So here we noted that open purchase orders that should have been closed as of June 30th, that they were encumbered being carried forward. And of the 35 that we selected for testing, 23 totaling 4.1 million were still encumbered. However, the purchase order had been closed out and the money was no longer needed for that particular procurement. So basically, we have encumbrances that are set up and roll over future periods. Just to give it a little background explanation, when an agency has gotten approval to make a purchase and that purchase crosses over fiscal years, so let's say the agency is granted approval to purchase something in June, however, the total purchase and payment don't hit until July, then that purchase rolls over to multiple fiscal years. So in order for it to be applied to the correct budget year, which would be the June year, they have an encumbrance which rolls over that budget authority to the future period. However, encumbrances are made as purchase orders are created, and then they are reduced as those purchase orders are used up. However, once the purchase order is fully used, the system to take that off of the encumbrance records is not working. The cause was that the city's accounting systems do not have controls over the encumbrances. There is no automatic liquidation process if you have an encumbrance that is old or inactive. And even if the purchase order is no longer being used, the contract's no longer being used, the encumbrance, there's no system to close out the encumbrance. There is a process for agencies to review open encumbrances at the year end. However, we found that that process is also not working. Some of the recommendations that we have, mostly to the Director of Finance, is to establish policies and procedures around the encumbrance system. And we gave a number of recommendations for the Department of Finance to consider, and those are also listed on the slide and in the report. Finding 5. This was not a deficiency, it was an observation. As we're performing our audit procedures, we noted that there was an account with $55 million having revenue added to it, and it was the communication fund. However, the account that it was posted to was payment in lieu of taxes revenue, which has nothing to do with the communication fund. We noted that only communications fund revenue is recorded in that account. The revenue recording the reimbursement received from city agencies run the communications fund, and this is not pilot revenue. So we understand repurposing accounts that are no longer needed for their intended purpose. However, in this case, the account name was not changed, which could lead to confusion and cause us additional audit work. So if, from external person and also compiling the financial statements, having the account label not connected to what the account's used for, we found as a risk. And then in discussions with the Director of Finance, we recommend that when migrating to Workday, that accounts such as these are cleaned up and that the account name is related and indicative of the use of that account. And then I will close with the prior findings. We had one prior finding, and this was on the grant statements. And we had noticed in prior years that for the 911 call center, expenditures about approximately $12 million were appropriately charged to BSIT going back to fiscal year 14. However, the revenue for those was incorrectly reported in the Baltimore Police Fund, which created this discrepancy and net deficiency in BSIT going over from year to year. We noted that this was not addressed in the current year, and in discussions with finance, the response was that they are cleaning up all these accounts as they transfer to Workday, and therefore this amount will not be carried forward, and Audit does not take exception with this response. And that concludes my presentation. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Audit. At this time, are there any questions or concerns from members of this board? Hearing and seeing none, I would like to provide the administration an opportunity to respond to some of the findings. I know that we have Director Todd Carter here, as well as members from his staff, as well as Director Henry Raymond from the Finance Department, in any order that you deem fit. Mr. Director, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Council President.
I'm sorry, Mr. CIO. By your turn.
Good morning, Council President, Mayor, Comptroller. I always try to make sure I stick the landing on that. I'm going to try to get it this time. We in BSIT, we have here Karen Tully, who's here for Director Raymond, and we also have Chris Harrington, the BSIT fiscal officer. And I'll first ask Karen Tully to talk through the first couple of recommendations, and we'll add on as appropriate.
Yeah, thank you, Director Carter, and thank you for the opportunity to represent Director Raymond today, Mayor Scott, and Honorable Mosby, and other honorable members here. And thank you, Josh, for the wonderful audit explanation and certainly all the recommendations. Actually, under the Department of Finance, we actually concurred with all of the findings except for two. And those two findings actually are around the fixed assets. And at the time of presenting the financial statements for the Internal Service Fund, that was around August of 2020. And we didn't close the Internal Service Fund until about October of 2020. So by the time we actually produced the annual comprehensive financial report, the assets were appropriately capitalized. And so we feel that this finding, we did not concur for that reason, because the assets were properly stated upon publication. The other finding that we did not concur with was the allocation of cost. And the allocation of cost was also in the Internal Service Fund. That is a allocation that BBMR completes based on a head count. And what they do with personnel costs is they take the head count and then they do overall cost and allocate that based off of appropriate head counts. So although we do agree in partial that this can be reviewed a little more closely at year end, and we are taking all of these recommendations very seriously, and we will be implementing a lot, as you heard, all but two of these, and actually even the two, we have actually even made means to further enhance that with all of the recommendations. One such would be fixed assets. We developed a policy as we go live with Workday. That's something the city hasn't previously had, so we spent a lot of time around that fixed asset policy that we're very proud of to go into when we go Workday live. The other recommendation is on this that we didn't concur with the allocation, that we will be working with BBMR a little more closely at year end to make sure that that allocation is a little more perhaps properly distributed. So That would be my closing remark in those two areas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The other recommendation relative to the timesheets that were not signed, most of those timesheets were from 311 employees who log in. Their time starts when they log into their computer and stops when they log off. We agree with the recommendation, however, and this is something that we have corrected as a result of Workday.
Thank you for your response. And we're good? All right. I guess at this point, are there any questions or concerns from members of the board for the administration? If not, I'll allow Mr. Auditor to come and speak, particularly if you could provide the board any insight or guidance to your conclusion of the assessment around the asset recordation as well as the allocation of costs.
Yes, I would like to thank Department of Finance because they did work very collaboratively with us on this. So there are a couple things to comment. So number one, Department of Finance did identify and present us with the journal entry capitalizing those assets after we had completed the audit. However, the financial statements that we were auditing based on did not include that. And so what we had to work with did not include that posting. So that's number one. And our job is actually we're prevented from preparing and compiling the financial statements. So when we're given the financial statements, we have that to work with. And then the other one, the last recommendation on finding 2 is to evaluate the internal service fund annually to identify surpluses and deficiencies and reevaluate chargebacks to agencies. So accounting standards, and we realize that when specific costs are allocated to time and different costs for hardware and software, that those might not accurately portray the total expenses, whether there's additional time, whether there's overtime, whether people hired, so it might not allocate for all those expenses. However, internal service funds should do a look back at the year end or quarterly and identify the true up there. So in other words, if the amount that they're charging agencies for their services does not cover their full cost, that should be trued up at period end. And so that was related to our recommendation there. We did note that some of the personnel costs were included in the chargebacks to the agencies, but that true up, which would cover all of the expenses, was not there. Therefore, the internal service funds, revenues and expenditures did not balance.
Understood. Any additional comment from finance or the administration? Any questions from members of this board? Seeing that no additional questions, concerns, thank you for your time this morning. This audit will be reported as noted. Mr. Auditor, don't go too far. The next item on the routine agenda can be found on page 4, number 2, the Independent Auditor's Report on applying agreed upon procedures for Baltimore City Cable Television Franchise Agreement from January 2017 through January 2021. At this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to our auditor, Mr. Josh Pass, to guide us through this report. Mr. Auditor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. With the permission of the president, we would like Deputy City Auditor Tandy Mung to present this audit.
Thank you so much. I yield the floor to you. And Deputy Auditor, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Controller, and other honorable members of the Board of Estimates. My name is Tandy Mao. I am the Deputy City Auditor. I am here today to present you the results from the agreed upon procedures that we did for the Comcast franchise fee agreement. Next slide, please. Next slide. The overall objective is to assess whether Comcast completely and accurately reported gross revenue and paid franchise fees and public, educational, and governmental BEG fees owed to the city. We have 2 sub-objectives, and today we are presenting the results for the sub-objective number 2, which is to verify the city is monitoring Comcast compliance with the BEG and reporting requirements for the franchise fee agreement. The scope is January 2017 through January 2021. Next slide, please. Next slide. We completed 3 procedures and we noted exceptions for all 3 procedures. Procedure 1, we verified that Mayor's Office of Cable and Communications, MOCC, has a procedure in place to ensure Comcast provides PEG channels without additional fee or charge to the subscriber. We noted that MOCC receives franchise fee reports, quarterly service reports, and quarterly payments. However, it doesn't verify the accuracy and timeliness of these reports and payments. Also, it does not have a procedure in place to ensure Comcast provides PEG channels without any additional fees. Procedure 2. We verify that MOCC has a procedure in place to ensure Comcast provided the accurate number of standard definition and high definition channels and the number of hours on video on demand. We noted that MOCC doesn't have a procedure in place to properly monitor these requirements. Procedure 3. Comcast is responsible to provide multiple reports noted on this slide. We verify that MOCC and respective agency have procedures to monitor compliance and agreed provisions to enforce such requirements. According to MOCC, Mayor's Office of Employment Development, Mayor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women Businesses, and Department of Finance, they do not receive the reports or do not receive them consistently. And we noted that none of the agencies are reviewing the reports. Next slide. There are two causes for these three exceptions. The cause number one is because MOCC doesn't have policies and procedures in place to monitor Comcast compliance with the franchise fee agreement. There was executive turnover, and because of the lack of policies and procedures, there is no guidance for the staff member to monitor the franchise fee agreement. We also noted that the reports are not saved in a centralized place. The staff member who is receiving the report, he's saving reports in his email, and he also doesn't have access to prior reports received by the former executive director. Next slide, please. Cause number 2 is because the franchise fee agreement requires multiple reports, which are the responsibility of multiple agencies. It is not clear that whether MOCC is responsible for receiving all reports and distributing them to respective agencies, or Comcast should submit report to respective agencies directly. All agencies involved in this agreed-upon procedure, they were not aware of their responsibility regarding the franchise fee agreement. Also, we noted that the franchise fee agreement does not define the responsibility for Section 11.4, which is city may require Comcast to attend and participate in a scheduled performance review once a year. So our recommendations are, next slide, please. Next slide. We recommend the Director of MOCC identify key contract terms relevant to MOCC and establish formal policies and procedures to monitor the franchise fee agreement. We also recommend that MOCC Director to document and retain the documentations as evidence of MOCC's monitoring. We also recommend the City Administrator define how this franchise fee agreement will be managed and whether it will be beneficial to assign the oversight to one or multiple agencies and inform respective agencies. This concludes my presentation. We thank you for the opportunity to present the results today, and we also appreciate all the respective agency cooperation throughout the audit. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. At this point, are there any questions or concerns for the Audit Department? Hearing and seeing none. Next up, we're going to hear from the administration. We have here Mr. James Bentley, Acting Director of the Mayor's Office of Cable Communication, as well as Mr. Jason Hardenback, Director of the Mayor's Office of Broadband and Digital Equity. At this point, whoever from the administration that would like to respond, the floor is yours. We have the city administrator who is here to respond.
Jason's on.
Oh, there we go.
Good morning.
We have our Office of Broadband and Digital Equity who's going to participate in the hybrid solution that he's working on.
Yes, sir.
So at this point, I yield the floor to you, Mr. Hardenback.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller, honorable members of the Board of Estimates. My name is Jason Hardebeck, the Mayor's Office of Broadband and Digital Equity, and I am I will be presenting our comments on the audit on behalf of the Mayor's Office and the multiple agencies represented. The audit was actually done at our request to examine the current Comcast franchise agreement, which has been in effect since January 2017, to ensure compliance with the agreement's terms and conditions. And we concur with the audit's findings and the corrective actions that are as follows. The Mayor's Office of Cable and Communications will conduct a review of the franchise agreement to identify key contract terms, deliverables, and performance metrics to inform policy development. The Mayor's Office of Cable and Communication will implement an internal policy to review all franchisee submissions, ensuring compliance with the agreement, and properly document the financial and operating performances on a monthly basis. The Mayor will establish the Cable Franchise Review Committee with designated representatives from the following agencies: Mayor's Office of Cable and Communications, Mayor's Office of Broadband and Digital Equity, Mayor's Office of Employment Development, Mayor's Office of Minority and Women-Owned Business, the Department of Transportation, and the Law Department. This committee will convene quarterly to review reports and ensure compliance. And finally, the Mayor's Office of Cable and Communications will prepare a summary of franchisee performance annually to be presented to the Board of Estimates. This time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Hardebeck. At this point, I see our comptroller would like to have the floor. So at this point, I yield the floor to you, Mr. Comptroller.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm trying to make sure I'm looking in the right place to look at Jason. I don't know if you can speak on behalf of MOCC, but would either you or MOCC or the Cable Franchise Review Committee commit to coming back to the board in August of this year to report on your progress in addressing finding number one?
I think I can speak for that, Mr. Comptroller, and yes, I think that we would be happy to do so.
This is more of a comment than a question. The part of this review, and I want to thank Sandy and Josh for performing, the report on applying agreed upon procedures. One of the things that I really enjoyed learning coming out of this is that the Comcast agreement requires a public meeting at least once every 3 years, which would allow city residents to air any concerns in public forum. And so I'm looking forward to working with both the city council and the administration in making that meeting a reality and finding the right venue to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. Just one quick question for the administration regarding this topic. I think the committee is a great idea, Mr. Hardebeck. I guess, for the citizens, for members of this board moving forward, and for the auditor moving forward, who's the agency on record that's going to be ultimately responsible for ensuring that not just with these concerns that the audit department has been able to identify, but for other concerns specific to these types of franchise agreements, ultimately who's responsible for providing a service of effectiveness and efficiency to move us past these issues and ensure that we don't get caught up in other issues in the future?
Mr. President, I can only speak to the franchise agreement that we're talking about today, but in the Comcast franchise agreement, the Mayor's Office of Cable and Communications is specifically named. I believe other franchise agreements might have a similar designated point of contact.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate that response. I guess what I would say to the administration, I think it's really important, particularly knowing that when we do these audits and the audit department identifies questions and concerns and problems such as this, that there is certain level of individualized accountability moving forward. So I really like the committee idea and meeting on a quarterly basis, but I think it's also really important that we identify what agency is ultimately responsible. Because with that, it not only drives and identifies the deficiencies, but also ensures, Mr. Mayor, that we're putting the right resources in certain agencies to address some of the issues that might come up via these audits. So that's kind of the motivation of that question. Understand that you're not able to explicitly answer that today, Mr. Hardeback. I saw that our Chief of Administration, Mr. Shorter, has stood up. So at this point, I yield the floor to you, Mr. Shorter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to quickly address the question directly, I have started to work very closely with utility partners, including Comcast. We met together about 2 weeks ago. I will be directly responsible for making sure that any issues around effectiveness, efficiency are managed through my office.
Thank you so much for that answer, sir. I appreciate that. At this point, are there any questions or concerns from members of this board for the Audit Department or the administration? I see our amazing auditor, Mr. Josh Pass. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the responses received in this audit was that these different agencies were not named in the franchise agreement. I did not include that in our report because I do not believe that we should be putting our internal control structure into our agreements with outside parties. However, it did highlight a certain risk that the city has, and which we've noted since I've been on board and in different audits, is that when these agreements are made, and from looking at this, we have the Comcast is supposed to give an annual hiring report, which would go to one agency. Annual MBEW report would go to a different agency. The grantee annual report go to a different agency. And those agencies are not necessarily brought in when these agreements are made. So I would recommend that the city put together either when this agreement is signed and they can identify which agencies would be responsible, that they gather that together, maybe even before the maybe even before the agreement is signed. But we do find, as we mentioned here, that these agencies were not aware of their responsibility. And I think that's a factor of certain of these MOUs are being negotiated by certain parties. However, we're putting controls and responsibilities on that third party that affect other agencies, and that communication is not being spread out. I don't have a recommendation to kind of solve it completely. However, it looks like either having the agencies that are going to be, their field is going to be part of the requirements of the agreement, or even once it's signed, bringing everyone together and identifying those and then setting up those procedures. And like we mentioned, whether it's going to be a centralized agency or what Jason had mentioned, they created a committee. But this is not limited to communications and technology. And that I think should be more of, I would recommend that that also be a focus. Thank you.
Leave it up to an auditor to eloquently convey the motivation of my question. But I think we've heard from our CAO that he's going to take the point and the lead on that. I think that's really exciting. Again, we want to ensure that the work that you guys are doing, we put it in motion. And I think when you bifurcate responsibilities and one hand is not necessarily talking to the other, it's problematic. So I think Mr. CAO has agreed, like he's done since he's hit Baltimore, to take on that responsibility. And we look forward to continue work with the administration to correct these issues. Thank you so much for this time. At this point, I do see the hand raised of Comptroller Henry.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in support of City Auditor's point and the President's point that when these agreements were crafted, there was no city administrator. And so they don't work under the assumption that there would be one administrative position that would be responsible for all of these agencies. So I think we can handle that administratively now.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. And at this point, the mayor would like to provide additional context.
I just want to say that means the comptroller thinks the idea of the city administrator is a great thing.
I thought it.
It's getting messy at the first in person. Anything else for members of the board? Hearing and seeing none, thank you so much to the audit department, as well as the administration and you, Mr. CAO. Seeing no further questions, concerns, or comments, this audit report is noted. The next item on the non-routine agenda can be found on pages 39 and 40, Baltimore City Fire Department. This request is to approve and authorize execution of consultant agreement with Facets Consulting of Arizona. The agreement is in the amount of $543,025 for Facets to provide consultation on several reports mandated by the City Council regarding the organization, personnel policies, and operations of the department. At this time, I'd like to recognize representative from the fire department, or Department of Finance to speak on behalf of this item? I see our chief. He's ready and prepared. At this point, I yield the floor to the Chief of the Fire Department, Mr. Niles Ford. Floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. President, Mr. Comptroller, rest of the board, we are asking to facilitate a contract with Facets in order to move forward with 3 bills that have been brought forward by the City Council. Within the organization, we do not have the resources to see it come to a successful outcome. So we're reaching out to an organization to ensure that happens.
I yield the floor to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chief. And I know the answer to this question, but I think it's important that we talk about it publicly.
Yes, sir.
What was the reasoning behind going with Facets? And we know that we had a big overall study of the department done through the same organization, and talk about the importance of that continuity
Yes.
of the folks understanding and the record that this organization has in working with fire departments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This organization has done a report on the fire department and released that report, quite frankly, in direction of the mayor when he was president of the council. That report outlined several different components that we need to focus on and grow off of. Consequently, they have extensive knowledge of our organization. But not only do they have extensive knowledge of our organization, because they've done extensive work throughout the country, they are a good organization to go to in order to facilitate most of these studies.
Mr. Comptroller.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chief, this next question isn't really for you. It's technically for the Finance Department. I don't have a concern per se with the fact that you're hiring Facets or the work they're going to be performing. I have more of a process concern, because when the 3 bills went through the City Council that you're hiring Facets to help you put together the work for, Department of Finance asserted in their written testimony that it did not anticipate a cost to the city as a result of the legislation, as the work will be completed internally by the agency. And since a contract value of $543,025 certainly seems like a cost to the city, what I wanted to know is, did the Finance Department talk to people in the fire department before it said that? Or did they just assume that you had the administrative capacity?
Mr. Comptroller, I don't want to speak completely on behalf of finance, but I think I can give an interpretation. At that time, they were under the assumptions that we were going to try to do it internally. There's no way we could have navigated. There were 3 successive bills that came after that. The first one, in fact, if you go to the original Facets report, it initially states that we don't have the administrative support to do what we're doing now. And that's regular daily duties of the operations of the city. So when other requirements were placed on it, it made it impossible to manage.
Okay, no, and like I said, I'm not disagreeing with what ended up being the case. I'm more just concerned about making sure that the council and the people of Baltimore are getting the right information during the legislative process. I don't know if it would have mattered if, when these bills were going through council, it had been a clear piece of information available to people that these bills were going to have a cost of $500,000. I mean, it may be that we would be comfortable in saying that this information is necessary and it is worth that cost, but that should have been part of the conversation then, as opposed to just now. So that's just the point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. I'm going to speak from memory real quick, Chief Niles, but I believe that there's additional legislation that has been proposed through the council that would also basically kind of flow into probably the need for this requirement as well, correct?
Well, there's additional, possibly additional legislation that's coming through that may require more reports to be done. So it may be a possibility that we'll be coming back for those as well.
And I think that, as we talk about legislation, whether in federal government, the state, and even here locally, with legislation, there's always unintended consequences. The one thing that we can't afford, Mr. Mayor, and to other members of this board, is those unintended consequences to affect our bottom line. And I think that we have to do a better job proactively of having, financial impact statements like you see in Congress, like you see in Annapolis, here in the city of Baltimore. This is something that I stress coming into taking over as city council president, the importance of ensuring that financial impact statements were done on legislation like this. So we do not wind up into this point where we're codifying law and not necessarily having the dollars in the sense that's mapped into actually executing it. I think that when we pass legislation and we do it as it relates to the legislative body as well as executive branch, that is our commitment to the citizens of Baltimore of actually doing that. But if we're not identifying the money and where it's going to come from, and we're not even doing the evaluation to ensure how much it's going to affect our bottom line, that is somewhat problematic, particularly when you're dealing with a scarcity of resources. So, I would just like to stress to this board, like I've been stressing since I've taken over, that those financial impact statements are really, really important. And I look forward to working with the administration and comptroller's office to ensure that we put resources in place so we don't wind up at Board of Estimate meetings voting for money that Finance Department told us we would not need to vote on just a couple months prior. With that, are there any additional questions or concerns from members of this board? Hearing and seeing none, thank you so much, Chief Ford. At this point, I will take a motion.
Second.
So it's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is approved. The next item on the non-routine agenda can be found on page 76, Department of Law. This request is to approve and authorize execution of a settlement agreement and release of a litigation action brought by Willinda R. Muse Walker. Ms. Muse Walker alleged that the transit bus she was driving was struck by a police vehicle driven by a Baltimore City police officer. On behalf of the Law Department, we have Kurt Heinrich to speak on the settlement. Mr. Heinrich, the floor is yours. Are you going to speak, Madam Deputy? Ann Binder? I think Ann Binder is going to speak.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I keep looking for somebody in front of me.
I'm sorry.
No.
Well,
The hybrid part of this really comes back to bite us sometimes.
if you hold on a minute, I'll run down.
The floor is yours, Mr. Ann Binder.
Thank you very much. This was a pretty routine accident occurring in June of 2018 on a wet pavement by a police officer. And he and the bus sort of sideswiped, and it was a pretty routine accident as far as these things go. The only thing rather exceptional about it is that the driver, there's a dispute of fact as to exactly what happened, but the driver was covered by workers' comp, and she took a lot of time off, and she also suffered a rotator cuff, and she had some injuries that were alleged to be permanent to her back and her spine and her neck. And the city faced a possible exposure of $400,000 if the jury were to find against the city, which is possible because it was a dispute of fact. And so we have resolved the case in the amount of $70,000, pending the board's approval.
Thank you, Mr. Ann Binder. At this point, are there any questions or concerns from members of this board? I think I see the hand of our comptroller. Mr. Comptroller, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Ann Binder. How are you?
Good morning, sir. Just fine, thank you.
I just want to check a couple things that we like to make sure we're doing whenever we have a settlement like this. Did the officer involved in this accident have any similar incidents during his time with the BPD?
No. In fact, this was his very first. He was pretty upset.
Okay, and was any disciplinary action taken regarding the officer?
I am not aware that there was any, but it wasn't. It was an accident, and I just don't know.
Okay, all right, and then last one is the officer still with the BPD and still driving every day as part of his job?
Well, I understand the police officer is now a proud member of the fire department, and I don't think he has a driving job.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions or concerns from members of this board? Hearing and seeing none, at this point, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is approved. Next on our non-routine agenda, we can be found on page 156. Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. This request is to approve and authorize execution of professional services agreement with the Youth Advocate Programs Incorporated. The agreement is in the amount of $1.2 million, and Youth Advocate Programs will be subject matter expert consulting on efforts to reduce gun violence in our city. Commonly known as YAP, it was identified as a primary point of coordination for wraparound services as part of the group violence reduction strategy component of the mayor's public safety plan announced last July. I want to pull this item off to a brief conversation because I know we are all concerned about reducing violence in our city. And the board memo for this item was a little light on specifics. I just want to better understand the services of YAP it will be providing and how it fits into the strategy pursued by Monty, as well as being pushed as a professional service agreement. At this time, I'd like to recognize representatives from Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement to provide context to this particular item.
Good morning, honorable members of the board. My name is Stephanie Mavronis. I'm the Chief of Staff at the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. As you mentioned, Youth Advocate Programs Incorporated, as we call YAP, is one of two service providers that we're engaging for the group violence reduction strategy, referred to as GVRS. In particular, their focus is on our older population, those who are 25 years and older. Based on the problem analysis that we completed for the soft launch of GVRS in the Western District, this age group accounted for more of the group-involved shootings and homicides within the cases studied than any other group. YAP currently provides the services that are outlined on Exhibit A of the contract, which you can find on pages 16 to 27. I'll summarize them here as well. YAP is accepting referrals from BPD, from MONSE, and other GVRS partners. They're providing intensive life coaching and case management to folks who are 25 years and older. They're also providing wraparound services, doing things like emergency housing relocations, transitional employment, barrier removal, and more. They're also assisting our work in providing custom notifications to individuals who are engaged by the group violence reduction strategy. And they're also participating with us in evaluation and research.
Thank you for that. Again, the mayor has made this a critical issue and theme of his administration. It's a pillar that he's really pushed. And I think that there's a tremendous amount of work that is out of the box, it's unconventional. That's important for us to communicate to citizens. So we know that this popped up on the agenda, and we want to ensure that folks knew the hard work and the innovation that you were doing over at Monty. I thought I saw the hand of the mayor. Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Madam Chief of Staff, just for the public's knowledge, walk us through why we had to build this relationship with YAP versus the traditional thinking that we were going to be dealing with folks who were 18 to 25 and what we found in the problem analysis.
For sure. So as I mentioned, we engaged two partners, ROCA and YAP. ROCA, which works for individuals who are 16 to 24, YAP, which is working 25 and above. This body last March approved an RFP process to which we had to put out there to engage with an organization that would provide these services to folks who are 25 and above. We didn't have service providers doing that work for that population. As the mayor mentioned, the problem analysis, we found that the people, even though we talk about violence as something that younger people are engaged in, we found in our problem analysis the average was in the 30s for people who were most likely to be the victim or shooter in an incident. And so we knew that we needed to find an organization that could provide those services specifically targeted for that population. And so we're really happy to have YAP as a partner. We've been doing work with them. They've already began accepting referrals. I think to date, 19 referrals as we've just begun getting GVRS off the ground earlier this year in the Western District, and we're looking forward to continuing to work with them.
Thank you, Madam Chief of Staff. At this point, are there any additional questions or concerns from members of this board? Hearing and seeing none, we appreciate all the hard work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this point, I will entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and probably seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. This item is now approved. And the last item, I believe, on the agenda, unless the clerk smacks my hand, is on the non-routine. It can be found on pages 317 to 321, Department of Housing, Community Development, Home, and CDBG loan modification. This request is regarding an existing City of Baltimore Home Investment Partnership Program loan in the original principal amount of $2.2 million and an existing City of Baltimore Community Development Block Grant loan in the original principal amount of $425,000. At this time, I'd like to welcome representative from DHCD. I see Madam Commissioner. Madam Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Good morning, Mr. President and honorable members of the board. We're here this morning for the project known as Highlandtown Co-op, which was originally developed in 1995 as 74 units of affordable senior housing. This is a routine refinance of the project after a certain period of time in life. I mean, this is 1995. Significant time has passed. The project needs to have renovations done, and developers will go in and refinance and apply for new tax credits and find additional funding and additional resources to complete renovations. During that time, when those refinances occur, the city and the state typically end up resubordinating our positions on the financing that we have in the deal. In this instance, we do have the two existing loans on the transaction, the home loan and the city CDBG loan. What this will do, it includes 1.4, it's a total of 5.7 million of renovations, includes 1.4 million in new funds from the state, and raises an additional 5.4 million in equity from low-income housing tax credits, with no new funds going in from the city. So our position remains the same. And then our action is that our outstanding city loans and accrued interest, like I said, will be resubordinated, and we will also end up the term extended, which will be coterminous with the 40-year period of the new loans. This will not impact our city's position. This is, like I said, routine. We do these all of the time. And then actually in this instance, we're going to be receiving funds, which is not normal on these. Essentially, the home loans and the CDBG loans, if it weren't for the low-income housing tax credits, were our main drivers of financing affordable housing, if it weren't for the tax credits, this would be grant money. But because of the tax credits, it has to be in the form of a loan. We typically we get very minimal, if any, ever repayments. A lot of times with some of these resubordinations, the state and the city will actually forgive interest. We will sometimes forgive principal because the loans that were done 15, 20, 30 years ago don't make sense in order to cover the cost of the renovations to preserve the affordable housing that we need in the city of Baltimore now. So we are currently the subordinate lender on the project. That's unchanged by the transaction. Our debt will subordinate to the new Freddie Mac first mortgage and the existing and new state debt, as well as they have a new HUD 202 capital advance as part of the project. We have not received any payments in the future, but under this refinancing and restructuring, we will actually realize cash flow as soon as they're available, because it will be split between the city and the state.
Thank you, Commissioner Kennedy. At this point, are there any questions or concerns for Department of Housing and Community Development? Ms. Comptroller, the floor is yours.
It's not a concern, it's more of a compliment. I was just going to say, I was going to say you had me at the state and the feds are putting in more money and we're not. But then I realized, no, you really had me at we're getting a little money back. So thank you. Good job.
Now, I do have one quick question. Not sure if you can answer it today. You said there was no new funding from the city. Part of this, did we restructure a pilot agreement, or is the existing pilot agreement still in place, or?
We did not. I'm going to turn that. We did not restructure. Yeah, there's no pilot on this.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you, sir.
sometimes that does occur.
Correct, yeah.
When we do the refinancing, there might be a restructure of a pilot, but there was no pilot on it.
So that even doubles down on what you were saying, Mr. Comptroller. At this
Great
point,
deal.
Any questions or concerns from members of the board? Hearing and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Go ahead.
Well, we don't have another item, I don't think, but I did have one I wanted to raise. Back on pages 341 to 344 of the agenda, this was a routine item. And by the way, I do want to take a moment to just say thank you to my staff who put together what we believe to be the largest board agenda ever produced, and definitely in the last generation or so. But calling our attention to items on 341 to 344, these are requests by the Department of Finance to pay outstanding invoices for software subscriptions that were automatically renewed without having valid contracts or purchase orders in place. And as all of you know, this is not the first time this year the board has seen multiple instances of this type of subscriptions that renew after the purchase order expires or before procurement can get a new contract in place. Sometimes because procurement doesn't know that the agency has even purchased and started the software subscription. And so what I wanted to just mention publicly is if we could work on a way to make subscriptions their own kind of thing so that they don't also require a contract or a purchase order, but the subscription itself would be something that once approved, it would be approved with the understanding that it would renew automatically every year. That way the Board of Estimates would have, done its duty in terms of formally recognizing the fact that these funds would be committed, but we wouldn't put the agency in a position of having to make sure that the other parts of this transaction right now have to keep getting done and renewed every year as well. And I know that the administration is working very hard. I know the council is also focused on needed reforms to the overall procurement process. So I just wanted to call attention to this particular thing as something that we're hoping can be addressed as we move forward in fixing our systems.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller, and I believe we have a comment from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to take this time to thank, again, as we did earlier, all of those who've worked to make this historic day of a hybrid meeting in the city of Baltimore happen. I said throughout this process that we were never going to go back to shutting out all of those folks at home who have been joining us as a result of our virtual meetings. And I want to thank Director Carter, all of the folks at BSID, everyone who spent time in doing this. And we're looking forward to having this new inclusive way of conducting city business.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the council also looks forward to continue to work with BSID and Department of General Services to bring the chambers to 21st century conditions. So the council can also have hybrid meetings as it relates to our regularly scheduled meetings and hearings. Again, at this point, if there are any other questions or concerns from members of the board, not seeing any anyway, before we adjourn, I would like to take a moment to thank, again, the folks from BSID, Charm City TV for their work over the past couple of weeks to develop this hybrid solution, as the mayor has talked about. I'm excited for more permanent solutions that will be installed throughout the city to ensure that we can continue to provide as much flexibility, access, and transparency to our constituents. As there is no new business before the desk, we will adjourn this meeting. The next regularly scheduled meeting for the Board of Estimates will occur on Wednesday, April the 20th at 9 a.m. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in and say, Baltimore, we absolutely love you.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Office of the Comptroller's opening of bids for April 6, 2022. We have some addenda that we've received that we need to announce on behalf of various agencies. Item number 1, Department of Public Works, contract number ER4130R, Environmental Restoration Project 15, will be received for opening on April 20th, 2022. Item number 2, Department of Public Works. Contract number SC987, improvements to return sludge pumping station number 2 at Patapsco Wastewater Treatment Plant. The due date for those bid proposals is April 20th, 2022. Item number 3, Department of Public Works, contract number WC1209, small water main replacements at various locations, downtown area. Those bids will be due on April 20th, 2022. Item number 4, Bureau of Procurement, contract number B, B50006423, Food Service Management Company for Summer Food Services Program. The due date for those proposals is May 4th, 2022. And finally, item number 5, Bureau of Procurement, contract number B50006494, debris removal, litter, trash, etc., from waterways and shoreline areas. The due date for those proposals is May 4th, 2022. And if you'll just bear with us for a few more moments, we have 15 bids to open today, and we are just getting those organized so that we can read them as efficiently as possible for folks that are watching and for our one live audience member today. Thank you for joining us. Colleagues are going to give me the signal when they're ready. For folks just joining us, you're not experiencing dead air. Well, you kind of are. We are still preparing. We have 15 bids that are being opened today, so we're taking a little bit of time to get ourselves organized. Thank you for your patience. Are we ready? Okay. We're about to get started opening the first of 15 bids today. I'm Celeste Amato. I'm the clerk for the Board of Estimates, and I am joined by multiple colleagues working feverishly to get all of these documents open and ready for reading. Jim Knighton, our Director of Policy, will be joining me. He will actually be reading the bid aloud, and then you will hear me reading that information back to Jim as I recorded it, and that is our double check to make sure that our recorded papers, our recorded record that we will post to the website are accurate. So you will hear us sometimes repeat things a few times to make sure we have those numbers right. I will do my very best to enunciate clearly so that folks that are recording these results wherever you may be, can get all that information down accurately. So bid number 1 today is from the Department of Public Works. It's contract number WC1349. The contract name is Madison Street Area 30-inch water main rehabilitation. And Jim.
First bid is from Garney Companies, Garney Companies, Inc., 3959 Pender Drive, Pender Drive, Suite 100, Fairfax, Virginia, 22030.
And the bid amount?
$8,832,842.
That number is 8,832,842.00.
Yes.
$8,832,842.
Yes.
Is there a bid bond?
Yes.
And do we have an original and additional copies?
Original plus 1 copy.
Thank you. bid.
Next bid is Metra Industries, 50 Muller Place, M-U-L-L-E-R, Place, Little Falls, New Jersey, 07424.
And the bid amount?
$6,487,360.
That was Metra Industries. The bid amount is 6,487,360.00.
Yes.
That was $6,487,360. And the bid bond?
Yes.
Yes. And we have an original?
Original plus one copy.
Great.
Next is Spinello Companies, S-P-I-N-I-E-L-L-O,
Address?
3500 East Biddle Street, Baltimore, 21213.
And the bid amount?
One second. Bid amount is $6,083,300.
Let me make sure I got that one right, Jim. That's 6,083,300.00.
Yes,
0.00.
yes.
That was Spinello Companies, $6,083,300. Is there a bid bond?
Yes.
And we have an original.
Original plus one copy.
Okay. Oh, is that it? Okay, we had a total of 3 bids for that item. Okay. Our second set of proposals today are for Department of Public Works, contract number WC1374. Contract name is Water Infrastructure Replacement at various locations.
Ready?
Yep.
First bidder is Civil Construction, LLC. 2913 Schuster, S-C-H-U-S-T-E-R Drive, Hyattsville, Maryland, 20781.
And the bid amount?
Oops. Tab came off. Bid amount is $7,168,700.
That number was 7,168,700.00. That was Civil Construction LLC, $7,168,700. Is
Yes.
there a bid bond?
Yes.
And we have an original and copies?
Original and one copy. Next bidder, Anchor Construction Corporation, 2254 25th Place Northeast, Washington, D.C. Having trouble making out the zip.
2000 something.
See if it's typed over something.
That's okay. I will just list that as Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Bid bond? I mean, no, sorry, the bid amount, sorry.
20018. Found it somewhere else.
And the bid amount?
9,402,932.
That number was 9,402,932.00.
Yes.
That was Anchor Construction Corporation, $9,402,932. Is there a bid bond?
Yes.
And we have an original.
Original plus one copy. Next bidder is Spinello Companies. $3,500 East Biddle Street, Baltimore, 21213.
Bid amount?
$6,273,000.
That was 6,273,000.
Yes.
That was Spinello Company's $6,273,000. And is there a bid bond?
Yes.
And we have an original.
Original plus one copy.
Okay.
Next bidder is J. Fletcher Creamer, Creamer, and Son Incorporated,
Address?
101 East Broadway, Hackensack, New Jersey, 07601.
And the bid amount?
$5,497,685.
That number was 5,497,685.
Yes.
.00.
Yes.
That was J. Fletcher Creamer and Son Incorporated, $5,497,685. Is there a bid bond?
Yes.
And we have an original.
Original plus one copy. Next bidder, Metra Industries Incorporated, 50 Muller Place, Little Falls, New Jersey, 07424.
And the bid amount?
$5,952,175.
That number was 5,952,175.00.
Yes.
That was Metra Industries Incorporated, $5,952,175. And do we have a bid bond?
Yes.
And we have an original.
Original plus one copy. Next bidder is Monumental Paving and Excavating, Inc., 1815 Edison Highway, Baltimore, 21213.
And the bid amount?
$7,886,865.
That number was 7,886,865.00.
Yes.
That bid was from Monumental Paving and Excavating Incorporated, $7,886,865.
Yes.
And the bid bond?
There is a bid bond, an original plus one copy. Next bidder, R.E. Harrington, Plumbing and Heating Company, Inc., 300 West 23rd Street, Baltimore 21211.
The bid amount?
$5,765,500.
That number was 5,765,500.00.
Yes.
That bid was from R.E. Harrington Plumbing and Heating Incorporated, $5,765,500.
Yes.
And is there a bid bond?
Yes.
And do we have an original?
Original plus one copy.
Typing too aggressively for the microphone, probably.
Thanks. Okay.
Was that it for that one?
Yes, that was it for number 2.
So we had 7 bids for
Yes.
WC 1374.
Ready? Okay. Next bid is TR 22010, Department of Transportation, resurfacing highways at various locations, Northeast Sector 1.
Jim, sorry, I forgot I usually read that part. Go ahead.
First bidder, P. Flanagan, Flanigan, and Sons Incorporated,
Address.
2444 Lock Raven Road, Baltimore 21218.
And the bid amount?
$1,551,937.
That number was 1,551,937.00.
Yes.
P. Flanagan and Sons, $1,551,937. Is there a bid bond?
Yes.
And do we have an original and copies?
Original plus one. Next bidder, LF, letter L, letter F, Mahoney, Mahoney Incorporated, P.O. Box 3687, Baltimore 21214.
The bid amount?
$2,313,241.50.
That number was 2,313,241.50.
Yes.
LF Mahoney Incorporated, $2,313,241.50.
Yes.
And is there a bid bond?
There's a bid bond, original and one copy. Okay. Next bidder, Manuel, Manuel, Luis, Luis, Construction Company, Inc., 701 Pittman, Pittman Road, Curtis Bay, Maryland, 21226.
And the bid amount?
$1,488,632.06.
That number is 1,488,632.06.
Yes.
That proposal was from Manuel Luis Construction, Inc., $1,488,632.06.
Yes.
And is there a bid bond?
Yes.
And do we have an original and copies?
One copy. That completes the bids for TR 22010.
Got it. That was 3 bids for TR 22010.
Yes.
I have the number off? Okay. Our next bid up is Department of Transportation, contract number TR 22011, resurfacing highways at various locations, Northwest Sector 2.
Yes. Ready?
Yep.
First bidder is Manuel Luis Construction Company, Inc. (701) Pittman Road, Curtis Bay, Maryland, 21226.
Bid amount?
Bid amount is $1,615,818.61.
Let me repeat that back. 1, 6.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on a sec. One comma 615, comma 818.61. Okay.
Yes.
That was Manuel Luis Construction Incorporated, $1,615,818.61.
Yes.
And is there a bid bond?
Yes. Original plus one copy. Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Next bidder is P. Flanagan and Sons Incorporated, 2444 Lock Raven Road, Baltimore, 21218.
And the bid amount?
Bid amount is $1,640,150.
That number was 1, 640, 150.00.
Yes.
P. Flanagan and Sons Incorporated, $1,640,150.
Yes.
And is there a bid bond?
Yes.
And do we have an original on copies?
Yes, original plus one copy. That completes the bidding.
There were 2 bids for contract number TR 22011.
Yes.
Our next bid is for the Department of Transportation, contract number TR 22012, resurfacing highways at various locations, Southwest Sector 3.
Yes.
Ready to go?
All right, first bidder is Manuel Luis Construction Company, Inc. (701) Pittman Road, Curtis Bay, Maryland, 21226.
I should remember that zip code by now, but I don't. The bid amount?
$1,567,454.38.
That number was 1, 567, 454.38.
Yes.
Manuel Luis Construction, $1,567,454.38.
Yes.
Is there a bid bond?
Yes, there's a bid bond, and we have an original and one copy. Next bidder is P. Flanagan and Sons Incorporated, 2444 Lock Raven Road, Baltimore, 21218.
And the bid amount?
$1,516,332.
That number was 1, 516, 332.00.
Yes.
P. Flanagan and Sons, bid amount $1,516,332.
Yes.
Is there a bid bond?
Yes. We have an original and one copy. That completes the bids, the submissions for that bid.
2 proposals for contract TR 22012.
Yes.
Our next bid is for the Department of Transportation, contract number TR22013, resurfacing highways at various locations, Southeast Sector 4.
First bidder is Manuel Luis Construction Company, Incorporated. 701 Pittman Road, Curtis Bay, Maryland, 21226.
Bid amount?
Second. Bid amount is $1,596,920.33.
That number was 1,596,920.33.
Yes.
That bid was from Manuel Luis Construction, Inc., $1,596,920.33.
Yes.
Is there a bid bond?
There is a bid bond. We have an original and one copy. Okay. Next bidder is P. Flanagan and Sons Incorporated, 2444 Lock Raven Road, Baltimore, 21218.
And the bid amount?
$1,546,062.
That number was 1,546,062.
Yes.
.00.
Yes.
P. Flanagan and Sons Incorporated, $1,546,062.
Yes.
And is there a bid bond?
Yes. And original and one copy. That completes the submissions for that bid.
There were two proposals for contract number TR22013.
Okay.
This is a technical proposal for 6336. So I believe that means, what does that mean, Brenda? We just opened the first?
Just read the name.
Just the names? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Just want to be sure we do it right.
Okay.
Okay, these are technical proposals, and we'll just be reading the names.
Name and address.
Name and address. Okay. All right. First proposal is Carefirst Blue Cross Blue Shield. $10455. Mill Run Circle, Owings Mills, Maryland, 21117.
Okay, the first proposal received was Carefirst Blue Cross Blue Shield, Owings Mills.
Yes.
And did we get an original and additional copies?
Yes. We have an original, and I believe it was 5. Is that right? Yeah, 5 copies, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next proposal?
Next is Aetna, AETNA Life Insurance Company, 151 Farmington, Farmington Avenue, Hartford, Connecticut, 06156.
That was Aetna Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut.
Yes.
Do we have an original and copies?
Original and,
Yes.
and 5?
Yes.
Original and 5 copies. Next submission is Kaiser Permanente. $2101 East Jefferson Street, Rockville, Maryland, 20852.
That was Kaiser Permanente, Rockville, Maryland.
Yes.
And original and copies?
Yeah, original and 4. And that completes the submissions.
We have 3 submissions for technical proposals for medical administrative services.
Hang on a second. Do we have United Healthcare over there for number 7?
There's another Medicare Advantage coming up.
So this is still on B5000-6336. We have a 4th submission.
Okay.
Ready? Okay. It's, this is United Healthcare Services Incorporated.
Healthcare Services?
United Healthcare
I'm having trouble hearing you,
Services,
but I'm
Inc. Yes.
Go ahead.
3803 North Elm Street, Greensboro, North Carolina, 27455.
That was United Healthcare Services, Inc., Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yes.
So that is the final of 4
Yes.
technical proposals received from medical administrative services.
Yes.
Give me just a second, because I'm updating this. This is also a technical proposal.
Yes.
This is for the Bureau of Procurement, contract number B5000-6455, Medicare Advantage plans with prescription drug benefits. These are technical proposals, so we'll be reading the proposal name and address only.
Yes.
Okay.
First proposal is from Aetna Life Insurance Company.
Okay.
151 Farmington Avenue, Hartford, Connecticut, 06156.
That was Aetna Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut, and we have an original and some number of copies.
5 copies? Yeah, 5 copies. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Next proposal is from Carefirst Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Address?
10455 Mill Run Circle. Owings.
21117.
Yes, Owings Mills 21117.
And we have an original,
And 5 copies.
5 copies.
And that is the final submission
So
for that.
we have 2 technical proposals for Medicare Advantage plans with prescription drug benefits. Those are from Aetna Life Insurance Company and Carefirst Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yes.
Okay. And to round out all of our medical care, our next contract is Bureau of Procurement, B5000-6476, Pharmacy Benefit Management Services. These are also technical proposals, so we will be reading the names of the proposers only.
First submission is Optum, OPTUM, RX.
Mm-hmm.
2300 Main Street, Irvine, California, 92614.
That was Optum RX, Irvine, California. Do we have an original and copies?
4 copies.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Oops.
Sorry, these are bulky ones, Michael.
Next proposal is from Caremark, one word, Caremark, PCS Health.
PC?
PCS, Paul Charlie Simon, PCS Health LLC.
Okay.
CVS Health, got a long name.
Oh, wait,
Okay.
there's more. Let me, CVS Health.
Mhm.
Okay, I will read that back to you after you
Yep.
give me the address.
2215 Sanders, Sanders Road, Northbrook, Illinois.
Zip. Zip
Oh,
code.
60062.
Okay, that was Caremark, PCS Health LLC, CVS Health.
Yes,
And that is out of Northbrook, Illinois.
yes.
And we have an original.
Original in 4 copies.
Four.
All right. Next proposal is from Elixir, ELIXIR, 7835 Freedom Avenue Northwest, North Canton, Ohio, 44720.
That was, sorry, formatting. The company name was Elixir, ELIXIR, and that's out of North Canton, Ohio.
Yes.
And we have an original.
And 7 copies.
Okay.
Okay, that completes
Oh, is that
the
it?
submissions for that.
So we had 3 submissions for B5000-6476 Pharmacy Benefit Management Services.
Yes.
Okay. So hold on a second, I'm just capturing the name of this next one. Okay, our next bid is for the Bureau of Procurement, B5000-6481. The removal of excess logs, wood debris, and wood chips, Camp Small.
Yes. First bidder is Northwest Recycling, LLC.
Address?
212 Cockeys Mill Road, Cockeys Mill Road, Reisterstown, Maryland, 21136.
And the bid amount. Oh,
Total-
this is itemized. My sheet says this is itemized,
Yes,
not a lump sum, so,
it's itemized.
okay.
Yeah.
So we will read each,
No, it does, I have a total bid price for the sum of items 1 and 2. But,
so,
Go ahead and read, that's what she's
Okay.
saying.
then if you have a total for that, okay, if you have a total for both items, then let's go ahead and read it.
okay, it's $1,020,000.
me make sure I have that right. That's 1,020,000.00.
Yes.
That was Northwest Recycling LLC, $1,020,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Ready for the next? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Next one is We Care. It's one word, W-E capital C, A-R-E, Denali, D-E-N-A-L-I, We Care Denali, 3308 Bernice Avenue, Russellville.
Burmese?
Bernice, B-E-R-N-I-C-E.
Uh-huh. Russellville.
Arkansas,
That's a new one.
72802.
72802.
Yes,
And is there a total bid amount?
yes, 724,530.
That number was 724,530.00.
Yes,
The bidder was We Care Denali, $724,530.
yes.
And is there original and copies?
Original and one copy?
Do we have additional bidders for that one?
No, those are the only two submissions.
Okay, 2 proposals for removal of excess logs, wood debris, and wood chips. The next bid is Bureau of Procurement, B5000-6511, OEM Parts and Services for FUSO Mitsubishi trucks.
Yes.
I cannot explain any of those acronyms, but folks out there probably know. Or at least the folks that bid on this one. Okay, ready for the first bid.
First bidder is Waste, W-A-S-T-E, Equipment Sales and Service, LLC,
The address?
317 North Point Boulevard, Baltimore, Maryland,
Hold on a
21224.
second, Jim, sorry about that. My fingers slipped. The zip code again, I'm sorry?
21224,
Okay, and the bid amount?
$41,100.
That number was 41,100.00.
Yes,
And we have an original and copies?
yes, original and 2 copies.
Next bidder?
Dovell, D-O-V-E-L-L, and Williams, LLC,
Address?
1120 Crane, C-R-A-I-N, Highway Northwest, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061.
And the bid amount?
Total bid amount, $58,400.
And do we have an original and copies?
Yes, we have an original and 2 copies.
That was Dovell and Williams LLC, and the number was 58,400.00,
Yes.
$58,400.
That's the final submission for that.
2 submissions for B506511.
Yes.
Okay. I need to take a sip of water. Okay. Our next contract is Bureau of Procurement, B506537, Ford Transit Cargo Prisoner Transport Van. And they specify the color white. I'm just reporting the news.
Mm-mm. Nope, nope, nope.
And the first bidder.
Okay, there's only one bidder for this. It's Rohrer, R-O-H-R-E-R.
H-R-E-R.
R-O-H-R-E-R, Enterprise, Inc., DBA,
Oh. Yes.
Rohrer Bus Sales, R-O-H-R-E-R, Bus Sales.
Address?
1515 State Road, Duncannon, D-U-N-C-A-N-N-O-N, Pennsylvania, 17020.
And the bid amount?
Total bid amount, $947,650.
Okay, and do we have an original and copies?
Yes, original plus 2 copies.
Okay. That dollar amount was 947,650.00.
Yes.
Roar Enterprise, Inc., doing business as Roar Bus Sales, $947,650.
Yes. It's the only submission for that one.
Got it. The next item up is Bureau of Procurement, rather. Contract number B50006540, aftermarket parts and supplies for cars and light trucks.
Yes.
And the first bidder?
Parts Authority, LLC,
Address?
3 Dakota Drive, Suite 110, New Hyde Park, New York.
New Hyde?
H-Y-D-E.
Got it.
11042.
And the bid amount?
Total bid amount, $240,000.
That dollar amount was 240,000.00.
Yes.
And do we have an original and copies?
Original and 1 copy.
Okay, that was Parts Authority LLC, $240,000.
Yes. Next bidder, IEH, letter I, letter E, letter H, Auto Parts, LLC, DBA, Auto Plus Auto Parts.
Auto Parts Plus.
Auto Plus Auto Parts, APAP.
Plus Auto Parts.
Right.
Thank you. The address.
901 North Lenola, N-E-L-E-N-O-L-A, Lenola Road, Moorestown, New Jersey, 08057.
And the bid amount.
$222,222.22.
Wait, can you say that number again,
Mhm.
please?
$222,222.22.
Okay, I'm going to read that back to you. 222, comma, 222.22.
Yes.
Okay. That was an original, and how many copies?
Original and 1 copy.
Alrighty, that was IEH Auto Parts LLC, doing business as Auto Plus Auto Parts. $222,222.22.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Next is the Baltimore Auto Supply Company. 1401 Parker Road, Baltimore, Maryland, 21227.
And the bid amount.
$244,000.
That number was 244,000.00.
Yes.
And we have an original.
Original plus one copy.
Okay, that bid was the Baltimore Auto Supply Company, $244,000.
Yes.
Additional bidders?
Next bidder is Fleet Pride, and that's all one word, Fleet Pride, Inc., 1715 Twin Springs Road, Halethorpe, Maryland, 21227.
And the bid amount.
$244,000.
That number was 244,000.00.
Yes.
Okay, and an original.
Original plus two.
Original plus two. Okay. That bidder was Fleet Pride Incorporated, $244,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Next is Packer, P-A-C-K-E-R, Norris, N-O-R-R-I-S, Parts, LLC. Packer Norris Parts, LLC. 8800 Citation Road.
Road.
Road, yes. Baltimore, Maryland, 21221.
And the bid amount?
$220,000.
That number was 220,000.00.
Yes.
And we have an original.
Original plus two copies.
That was Packer Norris Parts LLC, $220,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Next is Delco Line, D-E-L-C-O-L-I-N-E, Inc., 4919 Lawrence Street.
LAW, Lawrence?
Yes. Hyattsville, Maryland, 20781.
And the bid amount?
$227,800.
227,800.00.
Yes.
And we have an original.
Original plus two copies.
That was Delco Line, Inc., $227,800.
Yes.
That was the final of 6 bidders on B506540.
Yes.
Okay. Our next bid is Bureau of Procurement, B506541, aftermarket parts for heavy trucks and equipment. And the first bidder?
First bidder is Johnson and Towers. 500 Wilson Point Road, Baltimore, Maryland, 21220.
And the bid amount?
$260,000.
That number was 260,000.00.
Yes.
And we have an original and copies?
Original plus two copies.
That was Johnson and Towers, $260,000.
Yes.
Okay. Next.
Next is Waste Equipment Sales and Service, LLC.
Address?
317 North Point Boulevard, Baltimore 21224.
And the bid amount.
$260,000.
And do we have an original and copies?
Yes, original plus 2 copies.
That number was 260,000.00.
Yes.
Waste Equipment Sales and Service LLC, $260,000.
Yes.
Next.
Next bidder is Efficiency Enterprises of Maryland, LLC. 6300 Efficiency Way,
Coincidence? I think not.
Baltimore, Maryland 21226.
And the bid amount.
Total bid amount $130,000.
That was 130,000.00.
Yes.
And we have an original.
Original plus 2 copies.
That bid was Efficiency Enterprises of Maryland LLC, $130,000.
Yes. Next bidder is Beltway International, 1800 Sulphur Spring Road, Baltimore, Maryland 21227.
And the bid amount.
Total bid amount $260,000.
And that was 260,000.00.
Yes.
And we have an original and
Original plus 2 copies.
that bid was Beltway International, $260,000.
Yes.
Any others?
Yes. Next bidder is Maryland Industrial Trucks, 1330 West Nursery Road, Linthicum, Maryland 21090.
And the bid amount?
$285,857 and 14 cents.
That number was 285,857.14.
Yes.
And we have an original.
Original plus 2 copies.
That bid was Maryland Industrial Trucks, $285,857.14.
Yes. Next bidder, the Baltimore Auto Supply Company,
Is auto supply one word for them?
2 words.
Okay.
1401 Parker Road, Baltimore, Maryland 21227.
And the bid amount?
$244,000.
That number was 244,000.00.
Yes.
And do we have an original and copies?
Original plus 2 copies.
That was Baltimore Auto Supply Company, $244,000.
Yes. Next bidder is Fleet Pride, one word, Fleet Pride, Inc., 1715 Twin Springs Road, Unit 111, Halethorpe, Maryland 21227.
Just a minute. That was a very long address. Okay, the bid amount?
$256,410.
That number was 256,410.00.
Yes.
And do we have an original copies?
Original plus 2 copies.
Okay, and that bid was Fleet Pride Incorporated, $256,410.
Yes.
Okay.
Next bidder is Intercon, Intercon, Truck of Baltimore Incorporated. $1,200 Pauls Lane, Pauls Lane, Joppa, Maryland, 21085,
And the bid amount?
$256,000.
That number was 256,000.00.
Yes.
And do we have an original on copies?
Yes, original plus 2. That's the final submission.
That was the final bid, Intercom Truck of Baltimore Incorporated, $256,000.
Yes.
That was 3, 6, 8 bids for contract number B506541.
Yes.
Up next is it is the final, thankfully, is Bureau of Procurement. Contract B506555, OEM and aftermarket parts and service for marine and maritime equipment. This is also a lump sum bid. You can go ahead, Jim. I was just filling out the proper name.
Just a second. Okay. First bidder is Capital Filtrations, Inc. Capital is CAPITAL, Filtrations, Inc. 13359 North US Highway 183, Suite 406-743, Austin, Texas, 78750.
Sorry, that address was extra big.
Mm-hmm.
My format went crazy for a second. Hold on. Okay, bid amount.
Total bid price $2,854,640.
Okay, that number was 2,854,640.00. Is there a bid bond?
Yes. No bid
not
bond.
applicable. Yeah, it's not calling for one. Do we have an original and copies?
Original plus 1 copy.
Okay, that bidder was Capital Filtrations, Inc., $2,854,640.
Yes. Second and final bidder on this solicitation, Anchor Bay East Marina. $8,500 Cove Road, Dundalk, Maryland, 21222.
And the bid amount.
Total bid amount, $964,800.
That number was 964,800.00.
Yes.
And we have an original.
Original plus 1 copy.
That final bidder was Anchor Bay East Marina, $964,800.
Yes.
And that is our final 15 to 15 bid opening for today.
Yes.
Correct. Bid results will also be posted on the comptroller's website by close of business today. So you'll find a spreadsheet and tabs corresponding to each of the bids that were open today. Call us if you have any questions. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for this super fun bid opening. And thanks to my colleagues who handle all the bulky paper, binders, binder clips, and drink a lot of water so they can keep talking. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.